guys, welcome back to my channel. It's a long time no see. I know, I'm sorry. Things have been very hectic, but we're going to talk about all of that in this video today. If you're new to my channel, my name is Isa and I am a disabled writer and advocate. I just graduated with my master's this spring in communication studies with a focus in disability, culture, and identity. I'm currently part of the Disney College program. There's a lot going on. But it is December, which means that it is that time of year where we start reflecting back on everything that's gone on in the last year. And especially with all of the changes in my life, from this time last year to now, I just kind of wanted to talk about everything that's going on, what I've been dealing with, and then also just kind of what I'm looking towards. And I think I have a good perspective on what I want my next year to be and how I'm doing New Year's resolutions and stuff, and they're therapist approved, and I just wanted to share some of that. So that's what this video is going to be about. We're going to start off talking about a reflection of the year, then I'm going to talk about how I decided my New Year's goals and a little bit about New Year's goals, and then we're going to talk about the future of this channel for the next year because I'm very, very excited. I have lots of great videos planned. So let's get into it. Okay, so I got my knitting out because I feel like it's one of those videos that I just want to talk. So, in order to understand how this year goes, you have to understand things that led up to it. So, all throughout undergrad, my plan had been to go to PhD. So, for all intents and purposes, this year should have been the year that I went and got my PhD. Well, that didn't happen. I got burnt out in school and things were just complicated after my thesis. I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which was not a reason why I didn't apply. It was just one of the many things that I was dealing with. And so I chose not to apply, which meant that I had to get a job. Well, I applied to many jobs, didn't get any of them. And then I applied to the Disney College program because it was something I've always wanted to do. And I always dreamt of, like, when I was a kid, we went to Disney, we met the college program kids, and I was like, I want to do this. I was actually part of what I looked for in schools when I was applying to college, was trying to find colleges that had students that they supported going to the Disney College program. I ended up not planning on doing that. However, this was an opportunity to learn something new and to get into Disney and to get into all of this stuff and to break away from the work that I've been doing, which is largely focused on some really rough, tragic things. However, as much as that is the hope, unfortunately, this year I have had to deal with a little bit of a complex that comes from when you leave academics and you don't get a job that all of your people who were never planning on staying in academics get that job. So I was reached out to by an early careers recruiter when I first started as a DCP, and they had me do all these things, and I filled out application after application. I applied to these professional internships, and I did all of this stuff, and I was going to networking meetings, and I was doing all of these incredible things because I was going to use my time at DCP well and wisely, and I was going to make use of it. But then I got COVID, and I got sick in September, and I didn't hear back about anything except for an extension for guest relations, which I am still currently waiting on hearing back from. Because of COVID, I started having an allergic reaction to my mental health meds, and that meant that I had to get off of my mental health meds, which meant that I have not had the stability that I was using earlier in the year. And so I was starting to feel really, really bad about my year, that I just feel like I had wasted so much time. Not that Disney College program is wasted, but this goes back to that complex that I had envisioned myself to be a PhD candidate, or whatever the proper terms. That's not the proper term exactly, but I was going to be in my program. I was going to be working on that for so long. That's what I had envisioned my 2022 being. However, it wasn't what it was, and so trying to come down to the space of like what I actually did this year. And I wrote down at some point my 2022 goals, and I hadn't looked at it in a long time because I knew I was going to be disappointed, and I was like, I don't want to look at any of this, but then I did, and that's the exciting thing. I did look at it, and I found that I have actually almost done everything on my list. I got a job. I was accepted to the International Communication Association conference. I presented at that conference. I did some personal things that would push me out of my comfort zone, like audition. I volunteered at Give Kids the World, which I checked off from yesterday. I posted 12 videos for my YouTube, which is one of my big goals for this year. I'm pretty sure I posted way more than 12. But also I wanted 50 followers on my YouTube. I think I had 25 in December last year. There's like 150 of you now, which I'm amazed by. And so this just kind of started this process where I had to look back in the mirror. I'm like, actually, I did a whole bunch of things. I read 50 books, which was one of my goals. I read over 50 books. I met so many of these goals that I had made for myself that is just kind of offhand things, but because I'd been so obsessed with what I hadn't done, because it didn't match what I was supposed to be doing, because it didn't match how I felt that I was supposed to appear in the world, that I was doing something wrong. And it really helped me to reevaluate where I am. But I've been really struggling with my mental health recently because of all of the instability and uncertainty, especially not knowing whether or not I got the guest relations extension. And that's terrifying because that's part of it. Is I wanted to talk about guest relations, but I didn't want to say, oh, I didn't get it. And part of making this video is I wanted to say something before I hear back, because regardless of where I am, I want to be able, or like my career, all of this, like we're living in a really bad economic situation right now, and it's terrifying and unknown, and I don't do well with uncertainty. So all of this stuff, this video, is to just kind of pinpoint a place where there may be uncertainty, but these are some things that I have achieved, and these are the things that I can do, and these are the ways that I push myself that are really incredible and things that I wouldn't have done in the past. That leads us to where we are now, and that is December, and January is going to be a very big month for me. If I get the job, if not, there's going to be the disappointment that I didn't, because I really do want it. However, that means I also want to just set myself up and be in a position where no matter what goes on, that I have provided myself the resources that I need for my sanity and well-being. And so for me, that meant coming up with goals that were not career-oriented, that were not job-oriented at all, to limit the ways that other people impact that. The only thing that has anything similar like that is my number of subscribers. And if I don't get the number of subscribers that I want, it's not the end of the world. But there are steps I need to take to get subscribers. It's not just exist. It's not just, let the videos that I have sit there. I have to create in order to engage more. And so it's just kind of setting up those steps. And anyway, so I have a couple rules that I came up for myself. And we all know that like creating New Year's resolutions generally is not effective. However, the way that I'm trying to put it forward are things that just, if I start feeling uncertain, these are the things that I can come back to, and like these are the things that I am trying to achieve this year. So that means making sure that they're achievable goals with numbers. I like the numbers thing. It was really nice to be like, my goal is to read 50 books, and I read 50 books. Anytime I was like, I don't know if I want to read right now, and then I'm like, no, your goal is to read 50 books. So go ahead and read because that's something you want, which I think is really good for me when I am in my depressed episodes, that I'm better able to just kind of reconnect, like, oh, I made these goals for things that I want when I was feeling better, and that doing things that you like to do, I don't know, it's part of the process. It's complicated. Mental health is weird, guys. Anyway, but and then another thing is that I'm including things that I have to do. So something that I have to do, especially after COVID, is to get in with my doctors. I have not established care in Florida yet. And I've established more care now, but with my specialists. And so my specialists are on my goals list, and it's something that it's like, wouldn't feel right to be part of a goal, but it's inevitable. It's like get a job. I had to get a job. There's no choice about that. But by putting it as part of my goal, it's going, yeah, this is a difficult thing that I still have to achieve. And there's recognition when I get to color in that box of like, yeah, I achieved it. I did it. Another really big goal of mine this coming year is to finish the to finish 3 projects, to finish 3 written projects. And that can be a short story and my novel, or like 2 short stories and my novel, I think is what it hopefully will probably be. And then I have like dates, and I try to set up the dates kind of like I did for my thesis of these are the dates that I want to get sections done by. And the big thing about my writing goals is coming back again down to what I want. I want to write, so I need to write. I've read Bird by Bird twice this year because writing has just been a big thing about how am I going to include writing in my life when it's not so easy after academics. And so I'm working on my novel, and I'm stepping away from my novel this month. November was a big thing, and November and October were both big novel months, but that's because it was NaNoWriMo, and I didn't finish Nano anyway. But I'm trying to work on my thesis and get that out of the way before the end of the year to get it down and ready for publishing as much as possible. And but I have these goals, and I want to write 5,000 words. Instead of winning Nano, I want to write 5,000 more words for Nano this year than I did, like for 2023, than I did in 2022. And it's just about these incremental changes. And again, recognizing how each thing, like if I win Nano, I still get this goal. And it gets down to that achievable aspect. But the second part of my goals that I think is something that I'm doing differently, I'm actually very excited about, is I set values for this next year, things that I'm going back to that idea of setting intention and setting, world is complicated, things are a mess, I'm upset. What is on my list of things of who I want to be? What are things that are important to me as a person? Especially since I'm turning 25 this year, and that whole thing about your brain being, your personality is like hitting in the next 6 months. So really, who do I want to be in my adult life? And really defining these really important aspects of that. So to guide my 2023, I came up with 3 values, and they seem kind of silly when you just say the words, but I wrote down what it is, and then also what does that mean for me. So the first one is to be curious, because curiosity is a big part of who I am, and it's some part of me that I need to find ways to honor when I'm not in academics, because that is the part that I loved, is being able to explore more and be curious. And so to find adventure and be critical and delight in learning and all of these things that I love, that I know that I love, that doesn't have to be limited to do the spaces that I occupy. And then also to be curious is also to value the step of uncertainty, that there's going to be a lot of uncertainty in the next year, and there's going to be a lot of uncertainty in the next couple of years as I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing, and learning to be more okay with it, and to be curious and to accept that as part of my curiosity. And then the next one is to be kind. And kindness is a lot more like honesty for me this year. I am a people pleaser, and one thing about my relationships with my friends this year that I've grown in is I've been a lot more honest about how I feel about certain things, about what's going on in their lives, my thoughts about stuff, and not putting honesty as antithetical to kindness, but being as fundamental to it. And so practicing an honest no of like, I actually really don't feel well today. Can we reschedule, instead of coming up with an excuse or, that kind of stuff, the people-pleasing behaviors, and to really practice kindness for myself and to work on negative self-talk. And then the last one is to be bold, which is the most important to me. I'm just going to read this because I've tried to explain it 3 different times and it just hasn't worked yet. But what I wrote down for bold is, you don't have to respect me, I respect me. Say what you mean and do what you say. Be brave. You are not made for silence and popularity. Stand for what you believe, and the right people will find you. And this is what's guiding my YouTube this next year. I'm going to be talking about a lot of difficult subjects, and talking about things that have happened to me personally, or things that are going on in the world. And I want to be bold when talking about them. I want to be the type of person who stands for something and who says, I stand for building hope in my community. And so I'm volunteering. I volunteered yesterday to start my volunteering for the year. And all of these things, that's part of being bold. It means that if someone's, do you want to sign a petition? Yeah, I'm going to stop and listen. What is your petition? Because those are things that in the monotony of every day of like, oh, I got to get to this place or I got to get to that place. No, I'm going to stop. I'm going to talk to another human being, even though I have severe anxiety sometimes, and I'm going to listen, and I'm actually going to do the things that I say that I want to do, and that are good, that are things that I stand for, and following through on that. And I don't know, it just, hopefully it'll become clearer through the types of content that I talk about over the next year, but that's where I am. That's where I stand. That is my goal, as I try to get to the place where I am happy. It doesn't have to be happy, because I wrote about this in my journal a year ago. I was just reading that earlier. And that I want to be in love with the person I am. And I don't feel like that's exactly the relationship I have this year, right now, that I'm not necessarily in love with myself. I'm not someone who laughs all the time, like I wrote down. I'm like, I want to be someone who laughs and enjoys things and gardens, which I do, but also that doesn't reflect bigger parts of me that are sad and are depressed, and just I have these things in my life that I care, that I'm critical, these things that have been criticized, particularly by one of my relationships from last year that I'm no longer in. And it's just giving myself space to accept all facets of who I am, and basing those things on my curiosity and on kindness and on boldness, and balancing those three things. And those are what's important to me as I move forward in this next year, regardless of my job, regardless of my economic situation, regardless of everything else. Those are the things that I hope will help me become more stable in my personality that I'm presenting, a more honest front of who I am, and less worried about not appearances, but being accepted, I guess. So what does this mean for the new year? Well, this means that I'm going to try. When I say try, I'm going to try. In all honesty, when it comes down to my priorities, my YouTube channel is something for me. It's something that I care about. It is not my job, and it's not something that I have to be very careful to make sure that I put it in a place in my brain and priorities, that if I don't make a couple videos because I'm sick, that's okay. That's just part of life. And but I do hope to give myself the structure to put out content more frequently, to be more organized, to have more themes throughout, and to plan further ahead. And so I'm working on coming up with 20 of my 24 videos that I want to do. I hope to do more, but at least 24 videos. So that'd be 2 videos a month, roughly. But if there's some periods where I have a video every week, that's going to be what it is. If there's some periods where I have video, once a month or not a month, that's fine too. But the topics themselves are going to be hopefully a little bit more structured and organized, and that it's all part of the process that I'm very excited about. So I had to throw away a video yesterday. It was very sad, but it didn't turn out right. That is where I am. I'm also learning to knit, and it's kind of cool. I'm working on this project for one of my friends. But thank you so much for listening to me ramble. I hope that it provided some insight. If you have any ideas for videos that you want, I'll give you like a little bit of a preview. I'm hoping to do a video soon about like my sister and my relationship with disability, and talking specifically about the glass child syndrome, and talking about some of these things that are really interesting to me, but it's also me sad. So if you have other things that you want to hear about or think about, comment down below. Bye.